Hey there, Mike LeBate with Van Cafe. We're continuing the Someday series here on our 86 Synchro Vanagon, which actually is almost a Synchro. It started life as a two-wheel drive van, so there are still some two-wheel drive aspects to it. It's missing the fuel filler still to get to the Synchro state, but we'll get there someday. Really, today what we're going to do is we're going to unbox and show you an installation of a Twin Peaks rear bumper. We developed this rear bumper 15 years ago, and we've sold over 2,000 of them over time, and it's a product that we're real proud of and we get a lot of feedback on. We've even had some situations where people have had significant accidents, and they've claimed that, you know, the Twin Peaks really protected their van. So let's get to it. Let's start with tools. Pretty basic hand tools, right? These are my tools right here. I have a couple Allen sockets. I have a 10mm socket, I found it. I have a couple 3/8 extensions, a ratchet, a torque wrench. I'm going to use the impact driver for most of it. So let's unbox it and see how it goes. So we actually, over here, we send these in 2 different boxes, and the reason we do that is because UPS, right? So when we design these products, we're looking for what does it cost to get to your doorstep? So we wanted to design it within the parameters of UPS, and UPS 50 pounds, it goes significantly more expensive. So we have two boxes, one's 47 pounds, one's 49 pounds. It's probably about, so that's 92 pounds. There's probably about 8 pounds of packaging in there. So your rear bumper for your van is going to weigh somewhere in the mid-80s. And we're going to look at these rear bumpers. This one has the wings and end caps, as we call them. And these are all packaged and manufactured and powder coated here at our facility. We do make these in batches of about 20. And as you can see, we take the time to really try and make sure that they're going to get to your doorstep without getting ruined. So we do spend a little bit extra resources on packaging. I know in the world of environmental consciousness, it does add up, and we appreciate that you guys can recycle all this material and even reuse it, you know, just reuse the boxes. And so we're going to be careful here because, as we know, these are all powder coated assemblies, so we want to be careful with our knife. And again, we do have a fair amount of packaging, and that's what it takes to make sure that a product like this gets to your doorstep without getting damaged. So here in this box we have the C-channel. Part of the nice part about the C-channel is this is what holds your bumper. Your factory bumper came with 2 bolts, and in the Vanagon unibody there was a 3rd bolt back there. So this gives you more structural integrity and goes on the inside of your frame rail, and then the bumper connects to this. The reason that this is a bolted in place and not a welded in place is because it drastically decreases the dimensions of the center section of the bumper to make it, again, shippable. So this piece right here, like that, so it slides far into your frame rail. Now, the nice part about this is you'll notice that this is actually C-channel, so it's structural. It's not a bent piece. We buy this as C-channel and we weld the nuts on there. The nice part about this is you're not going to get, in a bump situation, you're not going to get downward flex. Whereas other bumpers on the market have just sheet metal right here, and that has a tendency, if you have a heavy bike rack or if you have something with a lot of tongue weight, that downward pressure is going to bend that and buckle that strap right there. So the bumper, yes, it's a little heavier, but it does come with structural pieces. And the nice part about having, I would say that's about 18 inches of engagement on the frame rail, is it supports that entire unibody frame rail. So yeah, we're gonna unbox the rest of this stuff and come back and show you where we're at here. Okay, so we got this first box unboxed, and basically what it comes with is the channels that we talked about, and then these end caps, which we make and form all these in-house. We have some other videos of this stuff on our press break, but basically this is bent sheet metal that's kind of welded in the corners and then finished on the outside, and gives you kind of a contoured look to a certain degree on the Vanagon and follow some of the body lines. These are the wings, again, sheet metal. All this stuff is powder coated. So yes, it did take some packaging. One thing I would remind you is to accept route. Route is our shipping insurance when you purchase the product, and it's out of our control, right? UPS beats stuff up, so you know, definitely take the route. I did also pull the excuse me, the hardware pack. Our hardware packs are individualized, so you don't just get a whole big mess of hardware, and our instructions will note where the hardware goes and how to package it. Again, we are using a little bit of resources, but we want to make this you know, a easy product for you to install, and we take pride in the way we package and manufacture, and all this stuff is thought out, so that's the goal. So let's start with installing the C channels. So the C channels basically have some of my tools over here. I'm going to dump this out. Okay, so this comes with 4 6 bolts to install the C channel into the frame rails itself. We'll put a washer on each one of those. And then we'll go ahead, and the best way to do this, so I'm going to take 3 of these bolts, and then the best way to do this is to slide the C channel in. So you want the smooth side out, because the bolts go through the back of the Vanagon. So right back underneath here are the factory bolt holes, and you'll have already known this because by this point you've removed your original bumper, right? So we're just gonna start and find those. Get them started by hand. And keep them loose. Keep everything loose until kind of the center section is on and a lot of the rest of the bumper is in place. So I just want to make sure that I get them started by hand so I'm not cross-threading them. If you start them with the impact, you definitely run the risk. And all I'm doing is just manipulating this back edge here and just getting a sense of feel, right? So I can manipulate this back edge and move that frame rail around, and I barely have to look. There's my 3rd hole back in there. Oh, there's a little bit of gunk in that hole on this particular van. Okay. There it goes. So we're just gonna, yeah, again, just put it in by hand, get a feel for it, leave it nice and loose, and then we'll put on the other side as well. And then we'll do an unboxing video of our rear center section, and that'll be the next step to put the rear center. We're just gonna continue. This one's left-handed, huh? I'm not quite left-handed. A little trickier. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be left-handed, but just the way it works in the world. I guess it's a challenge, right? Like doing van stuff always has its little intricacies to installation of parts and stuff. You know, some of our DIY kits we call certainly more advanced. We would say that they're you know, technician required. So, you know, for example, installing a Subaru engine in your van, you really want to be technician required. This one right here, this takes patience. So we say a B-level mechanic can do this with tools. You know, this job can also be a fun project with a buddy, maybe some beers and some laughs, maybe, if that's your thing. But yeah, I don't know if I can really do it left-handed. We're going right-handed. tricky with right-handed because you got it. Can't do it right-handed either. I admire those people that are ambidextrous. Okay, look at me, ambidextrous guy. Look at that. Okay, so again, the nice part about these bumpers is, you know, because you've taken off your stock one, there's only 2 bolts holding on each side, and the system again makes it stronger. And once we get the center section on, we'll really start to understand why the benefits of this having it stronger, because you can put a nice bike rack on there, and while the tow capacity of a Vanagon isn't that high, our bumper is certainly the strongest bumper on the market for any kind of fixturing to the receiver hitch. And we're proud of that. And again, we get a lot of good feedback on it. Okay, left hand, pulled it off. All right, so we're gonna go to unboxing of this product here. We do use some staples in this thing, so if I get in a fight with these staples, look the other way. We'll mute out the cursing if that happens, and I apologize to the guy that has to deal with them, you know. Be careful, I guess, with the staples, because they are kind of sharp. We really focus on packaging. Our guy that packages this stuff, Nick, if you go over and listen to him package it, he's gonna tell you how great it is. He loves putting this stuff together, and works with a lot of pride. Now, I will admit UPS can screw this up for us, so again, throughout this video, I will remind you to buy route packaging, because the guys at UPS don't care nearly as much about our product as we do. And they have a tendency to go ace on it. Little Ace Ventura kicking that thing down the sidewalk, you know. If you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie, right? It's a classic. Okay. And those old timers that have been around the Rocky Mount Westy scene for a while will remember when we actually used to put all of this in one box, and it was a 93-pound box. And that just, I can't live in the world of regret, but man, that was, why we did that, I'll never really know. But we did. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So here's the center section of the bumper. This center section, it weighs 45 pounds probably, and just super sturdy. Like there's a lot of metal in this. Be gentle about getting this last piece off here. Workbench is not nearly as nice and clean as this bumper, but let's take a look at it and understand why it's. So remember the C channels right here, this is where it bolts into the C channels. This is all tied in here with heavy steel. This is all 10 gauge metal that's bent and formed in our shop. All of this is welded in our shop. We spend the time to clean up the BBs so that you don't have powder coating issues. A lot of the product you get these days is just, they don't do the final cleanup, right? They don't do the hard work. They do I don't know. They do the first, we call it one side. They do the one side, right? We do both sides. So, and then you can see this 10 gauge piece of this step, and I'll show you the front of this in a second, ties in this receiver hitch. And this is all welded in here. And it's all, these curvatures and bends in the metal really stiffen things up to make this a really stiff and robust component. So, you know, we're biased, right? We design, manufacture, and distribute the product, but it is the strongest bumper in the market. Now there's little things, right? You can't have it all in life. The Vanagon has a shield right there. You can see all those little square holes across the back. It gives limited clearance to the depth of the receiver hitch. So depending on your bike rack or your receiver hitch or your whatever you want to install fixture into the 2-inch receiver, you may have to drill another hole. You may have to trim off the back. You may have to adjust that. Certainly when it comes to bike racks are very universal. So if you're putting a bike rack in here, the goal would be to get the bike as close to the van as possible. And what that does is that eliminates what's called tongue weight, basically, and leverage on the bumper. So the closer you are, the shorter the lever, the stronger it is. The other thing is you do have to reach up in there to get the pin in and out. I think the locking pins are the most convenient versus the pins that have the cotter pin to hold them in place. But it's a little tight back in there. But again, this isn't something that you're doing on the daily, so we compromise with that and just build it that way. Okay, so I'm gonna get this mounted up and then I'll show you how it fixtures and what the next steps are. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is I did get my left C channel on there over there with good old Lefty. A small minor victory of being ambidextrous. Beyond that, I'm not really good at it. But for the right side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I'm going to drop the bolt. I'm going to put this C channel on the bumper. And what this does is this enables me to have a little bit more play. Whoop. Now I'm going to drop both bolts. Okay, stay. So we're going to put that on there. And we're basically going to bolt one side C channel to the bumper, and the other side C channel is going to be bolted to the van. And that's just going to enable us to align it, because clearances are pretty tight, you know. You don't want a lot of extra space, and when you're manufacturing, it's all about clearances. And so yeah, it's kind of tight. Okay, I'm going to take my gun. I'm going to run these on a little bit. So it won't loosen on you, but it does take a little bit to get them on. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and slide this bumper on in place. I'm gonna have my carriage bolts for the other side handy, at least one. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna slide this in place. We're gonna put this in the frame rail like so. Align that like that. So it does take a little bit, like I said, there's not a lot of extra clearance in this stuff, so it does take a little bit of pushing and what do we call it, encouragement. And you know, don't try and make sure you're essentially sliding in straight, right? Don't go crooked, because that just makes it harder. So you want to basically be able to slide the stuff up in place. And again, remember, leaving everything loose is really the key to success in the project. Because if you start to tighten stuff up too early, you lose a lot of adjustment. So we're just going to leave stuff loose and kind of go from there. I would say out of all the parts of this project, that is This thing's kind of heavy, you know. This is a good two-man part of the process. So if your resources are limited and your buddies only sort of like you enough that they'll give you 10 minutes of help, take it right here. Okay, so now, again, we're not going to tighten anything else up. I need to get this side bumper bolts in place. Like a screwdriver or something to line these holes up if they're not aligned correctly. A little too far in there. Get a good feel for it. Ooh. Okay. And again, I didn't use a screwdriver. Sometimes that is the best method. I also have a rubber hammer here that I can kind of just give it a little bit of persuasion. But basically what I'm trying to do is get the other 3 bolts in place here. So I'm lined up. I just got my first one started underneath there. And again, I can pretty much do it by feel. Just want to make sure that when you start to tighten this stuff that you're not, it does go up and down a little bit. Just want to make sure you're not cross-threading anything, right? Okay. Can kind of do a little shimmy shake there to line things up. The trickiest one, to be honest, is the longest one in there, because the hole in the body is kind of a little bit small, and it really is the. So we'll see how I do there. Oh look, right there. Yep, it went right in. Perfect. Okay, so now that I got. So on each frame rail, I have 2 on the outside that hold the bumper to the thing, and then I have 3 on the inside, so I have 5 bolts on each side, 5 half-inch bolts. Makes for a super strong bumper, as you can see. The next step after this is I'm gonna tighten these up a little bit. Again, I'm gonna leave things kind of loose until I get further down the road and get the rest of the components on there, but yeah, I'm gonna do some more assembly. We do provide a torque spec for these bumper bolts here. So I'm just gonna get them set, and then I'm gonna go back with my torque wrench. Yes, I do know how to use a torque wrench. Let's go back to hardware. So the next step is looking at hardware. So we use these clips. These are automotive clips. Lots of cars use these as fender bolts, all kinds of different bolts. We call them J-clips. But basically, the nice part about these things is you don't have to hold the backside with a wrench. It's not a two-sided deal. It's just a one. Once these are installed, then you're going. So we have 8 of them. Obviously, everything's symmetrical, so there's 4 for each side. So that's why I have my little rubber hammer here. I'm gonna take my little rubber hammer and I'm gonna put the nut on the inside, and I'm gonna tap these into place. Okay. Kind of just get them to where they are set nice and centered. Okay. And then they'll level out once they're all smashed in place. Okay, I'm gonna do all my top ones, just get my hand a little lighter here. Pretty simple. They're a little harder to get out. They do have a little clip where you gotta kind of grab the little flipper flapper thing and shove it off there. Hopefully, in theory, you shouldn't have to take it off once you get it in place. These are there's two sizes of these. These are the larger ones. Okay, I'm gonna do the same on the bottom row, and that's how I'm gonna basically hold my wings on. Okay. And keep on going, watch your fingers. I'd say don't do this at home, but this is kind of the whole premise of the thing. Yep, I just caught my finger, so be careful. Yeah, so basically what we're trying to do with the Someday series is we're just trying to make good DIY videos for our product line. So you guys can go and refer to these and, you know, have a guideline and to get the stuff installed. Okay, so continuing with hardware, we want to do a little more hardware installation. So we do sell these kits with black hardware or silver hardware. So these are more of the smaller J-clips. So those will hold the wings on. Starting stuff with your impact driver, you're just kind of asking for a challenge. And those J-clips, if you cross-thread those J-clips, that is definitely a challenge. So we're going to start with putting our left wing on. So basically this just sets onto the bumper like that. Our holes are nice and lined up. I'm going to start it with that. Okay. I kind of like to go cross pattern just because then I can make sure things are aligned better. And again, this is kind of a, well, I'm going to go right there. Because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, after I get that, those are out of alignment just a little bit. But again, this is kind of why we use some of these components, is because they're adjustable. So I'm just going to take my little Allen screw through there. Just going to center that stuff up. Feel a little bit like I'm on a cooking show here. So I'm making you a nice rear bumper. I love to eat too. So, you know, those cooking shows when they're making chicken parm and pasta, all that shit. Okay. So all four of these bolts are basically in place, and then I'll come through and I'll probably start those by hand again. You know, really, you can get in quite a bit of trouble if you're going with impacts. It's a kind of a feel thing, right? You know, you almost, turning it up here gives me very little leverage. So if my bolt is cross-threaded, I don't really have a whole lot of leverage. If I come down here and start reefing on it, I get a lot more leverage on that bolt. So kind of the way I started is just kind of up here like that, nice and smooth, knowing that I'm not cross-threaded now. Again, I'm gonna leave things fairly loose, and now I'm gonna come back and tighten everything once all the components are installed. And to set these things on, it's actually, there's a metal washer and a plastic washer. So you put the metal washer against your bolt head, and your plastic washer is going to go against your powder coat. Again, we're going to kind of just set this in place, find our starter, get one started by hand. And then I'm going to go around and work my other three in place. I might need my little alignment tool, which I was using my Allen socket for. Yeah, I'm going to use my little alignment tool. Kind of just was able to set my ratchet up there. That's another, when we designed our bumper, we were really, you know, it was like, can we make a step to make it easier to get into the back of the van or get up to the top while you're out washing it or whatever. And you know, there's a lot of aftermarket bumpers in the world, and a lot of them kind of use some kind of step. So we incorporated that step into it, and yeah, it's kind of a design noticed feature of our product that we do also get a lot of feedback on. I'm gonna, you know, just gonna stick that in there. I'm gonna get a little alignment on my nut in there, and then I'm gonna go back and just kind of feel it into place. It can be a little stubborn. You know, you can also kind of, oh, there it goes. Okay. You know, and using your with an extension just by hand gives you a lot of, you know, it gives you leverage to move the bolt around. If you're just sitting there trying to start it by hand, sometimes it's pretty difficult. If you have a traditional Allen key, you can use the long side of your Allen key and the L over here. But that gives you a little bit. See, I was able to, that would be difficult if I didn't have this tool in my hand to get started like that. So yeah, using a little bit of mechanical advantage. And again, I'm gonna go real slow, and I'm just grabbing the top of my ratchet without too much leverage to make sure that all of my clips are started nicely and nothing's cross-threaded. Get a few turns on each one. Look at that one's kind of dangling, right? So we're gonna get that one, make sure it's started. Just real easy, real slow. You can feel it going in. If it was cross-thread, it would bind up. Okay, so our wings mount with these, okay? One of the other things that we do in the powder coating process is there's actually a layer of primer underneath the powder coat. So if you scratch a little bit of the powder coat while putting these on, you don't have to worry about it because there is a primer layer underneath there for adhesion and corrosion protection. So we're just going to slide this over and get our, I can use my, again, same, I can use my Allen as an alignment bar. See, that's a little tight right there, right? So I have my tool to be able to, I'm gonna leave that one because it's gonna hold it in place. And I'm gonna come back to it. But that one is cross-threaded currently, so I don't wanna just like slam my impact on that thing because it'll make a mess. Drop down, see how I can drop down nice and smooth. So I got my little J-clip in there, align nicely, start my bolt. And I can just kind of position my bolt. Yep, that one went in nice. Okay, now this one, you can kind of see it's quickly. So I'm gonna actually loosen it, reef it that way a little bit, and then start it again. So that one might require, this is a long handled ratchet. A lot of other, it's a snap-on ratchet. I actually bought it like 35 years ago, old guy tools. But be careful with long handled ratchets. They just give you a ton of leverage, right? But I'm gonna just get this one going. Sorry, Bam. Yeah, I just had to get it started. And I just gotta be really careful. Make sure you get the feel for it. You know, I've kind of done it for a long time, so I kind of get the feel for it. But yeah, just be cautious when you're tightening that stuff. Because if that were to strip and I was unable to get that out of the J-clip, then what do I do, right? Now I gotta like either go underneath there. I mean, what I would do is I would take the whole wing back off again, put it on my workbench and work it. But you know, being cautious and paying attention is really part of it too. So this is our final bolt here. with my Allen stuck through here. We're gonna, not a ton of light right there. And that's all kind of set in place. I'm gonna put it right on my thing. Just gonna see how nice. And I have the ability to really move that screw around because I'm not doing it by hand. If you're trying to put those things in by hand, it'd drive you crazy. Still not really tightening stuff up. I'm gonna come around and do a final tighten on everything. Okay, there is one more bolt on this side, which we'll get to later, but that's a bolt in here on the fender that holds this wing from doing that. So there's one stabilizer bolt hidden back in here that uses the same hole as your early style factory bumpers. The fiberglass bumpers didn't use that hole, but the hole is there on all vans. So you guys get to razz me a little bit because I'm going to end up with 4 extra parts. I didn't put the metal washers on the left wing. I have to take that apart and go put them back on. That's kind of the key, right, in auto repair, is not ending up with extra nuts and bolts, right? They're usually there for a reason. With that said, some of our kits do include extras, but we're sure to note them when they include extras, as to, because some stuff is just easy to lose or requires service and maintenance, and extra hardware is certainly helpful. I'm gonna put these clips in place. Okay, that's the little bracket right there. That's gonna hold the wing on, so we'll get to that eventually too. All right, we called this the Someday series because I was like, someday I'm gonna put bumpers on that van. And guess what? Here we are. Okay, I'm gonna start one. Gonna start 2, maybe. I'm gonna start the 3rd. I'm gonna set my tool up. Yeah, I'm running nice and easy. Feels like it's just going right in there, no problem. Got a little tight there. Okay, I'm gonna try these. That's easy. You know, I'm also keeping an eye on the bolt to make sure it's going, threading down straight and not lifting up anything, and just, you know, paying attention. Oop. I need tail lights by the time this job is done. Be careful, don't break your tail lights, okay? We call this doing it with your magnifying glasses on versus your sunglasses, right? Sometimes you can work on your van with your sunglasses on and things don't really matter, but you know, a project like this kind of requires a little bit more attention and a little bit more paying attention. So yeah, working with your readers. Maybe it should be your readers versus your sunglasses, right? I don't know if my magnifying glasses are really appropriate. Okay, I'm gonna go around and start tightening this. We don't put a torque spec on these. Don't break them. You know, I think the German torque spec is good and tightened. You know, again, I'm torquing from up here. I don't want to yank out here. There's so much leverage, right? We talked a lot about leverage. So I can just tighten those from right there. Let me do the same on this side. I start with these outer wings to tighten them up and then kind of move in, kind of reverse of what the assembly was. Okay, and I got this one too. Careful, you don't split them. I just split that plastic washer. So I over torqued. So the last one, of course, I over torqued, right? I'll replace that here in a few minutes. And you know what? I'll make a recommendation to the team to put more plastic washers in there. So if you split them, you have some backup. Okay, same. You know, you don't really have to refund these. It's probably a good, you know, maintenance says you should probably check this stuff annually, maybe. Just go around and make sure you don't have any loose bolts. But you're gonna be able to see them if they're loose. Okay, again, I don't need to really over torque this stuff. So what we do put a torque spec on is we do put a torque spec on. It's 33 foot-pounds for the 3 bolts that hold the bumper to the frame and the 2 bolts that hold the bumper to the C-channel. So we set all those at 33 foot-pounds. So on this torque wrench right there, it's kind of a hefty torque wrench for the project, but we're gonna go down here and we're gonna start tightening. You know, you can make sure everything's tight by hand. So we are going to torque these. These are all torqued to 33 foot-pounds, and that's the 3 bolts on the frame, and then the 2 bolts that hold the bumper to the chassis. Excuse me, the bumper to the C-channels. So we're going to go in and torque those to 33 foot-pounds. A little tight in there. Here's the solve. That's why you kind of want to get them a little bit tight, you know. You know, it is pretty tight, but you know. If you wanted to, you could put a little tape right there on your van, but the reality of it is if you're kind of gentle, you're not really. And then I'm going to go and torque those 5 bolts to 33 foot-pounds. And then I'm going to do these wings just to firm that up, and that's going to complete the process of installing the Twin Peaks bumper. So we appreciate the business, and we hope you're as excited about these as we are, and yeah, continue to watch our videos and the someday series of getting this van out camping. So we appreciate you, and yeah, come shop with us at vancafe.com.